Hello everyone, how's it going? My name's Bo and I'm going to quickly show off a tool today I think is really useful and will improve your developer workflow, I believe. Mainly because if you like the CLI, which I like the CLI, you're going to love this, right? Even if you don't like the CLI, you're probably still going to find it pretty useful because it's just so easy to use. So what does this tool do? Well, a typical developer workflow for querying smart contract data would be to go to Etherscan. Etherscan is a staple for pretty much any blockchain developer. And obviously, to use Etherscan, you have to open up a web browser. You have to go to get your contract address. You have to paste it in here. Let's say we wanted to query the Chainlink token, which is this one here. So I'd go to, I'd maybe Google Etherscan if I didn't know the link, or maybe it'd take me directly there, and then I could paste the link in, and then I'd go to the contract. And if this was my own contract and we're on the test net, we'd have to upload the source code and verify it, which is like it's like 5 more interactions already. I mean, opening up Google, opening up your web browser, doing this, going to contract, click on read contract, that's like at least 5 clicks, 5 interactions. With Notar CLI, we can reduce this down to a single interaction to do what we just did with Etherscan, to query the Chainlink token to get the total supply, for example. So let's have a look. We just need to know the contract address, right? And we can get started with Notar CLI by going npx notar-CLI, for example. You can install it globally if you want, or you can just use it via npx. I happily just use npx these days, so I don't need to pollute my system with tons of global packages. So here we are. The first thing we can start by doing, actually, which makes this tool even better, is to go and set some aliases. And so here I've created 3 aliases. Now, the first alias will allow us to query an ERC20 token on the Ethereum network. Now, there's just one little caveat. This tool is pretty dumb. When it comes to distributed systems, you generally expect things to be loosely integrated and therefore dumb. So if we try to query a 721 with an ERC20 ABI, we won't get any errors until we actually start trying to fetch methods from that contract that just don't exist. Now, ERC20 and ERC721 do share some methods, such as the name method. And because these methods are addressed by their hash, if it's got the same name, which is NAME, functionally they're the same method, which is almost sort of like a structural type system in a way, because the types aren't unique in that sense. There's no type for the name function, which means that you can call an ERC20 name using an ERC721 ABI. So there's don't expect these things to be like type safe, for example. But the point is, we can quickly query stuff on our network with these aliases that we've defined here. Now, I'm actively developing a land contract called AfriLand, and so I've created an alias for me to just very quickly query it on the live Ethereum network. And I'll show you right now us querying the Chainlink token that we were looking at before. So all we need to know is the token address and our little alias. So we could go npx, notar CLI, blah, blah, blah. We're going to use our alias for now that I just defined earlier. So we can query that, and that's going to take the ERC20 ABI, send a request off the network, and then load in the potential functions that we can query on this contract. And so we could query the name, and we get back Chainlink token. We can query the decimals, and we should get back 18. And there we are. Perfect. Okay, so now we're working on our own contract, the AfriLand, and look at that. We can instantly start querying our contracts, such as for the name, such as for owner of an ID. Now, big caveat, guys, I don't think I'm going to get an ID that will exist. Mainly because our IDs, when I design the land contract, are set out on a grid, and we have these parcels of land, so it's a huge grid system with like 100,000. Anyways, the chance of me getting this right, they're not all minted yet. To get one that is minted is quite low, and and there we are. I was correct in that wouldn't work. But the point is, we can query stuff about our contract very quickly. Now, there's potential here as well for, okay, maybe we can start writing a bash script, right? And so in our bash script, we could go npx notar CLI, and then we could, go ERC20. I mean, let's just pretend here we've just written a query to get back some information out of our smart contract, and we might do npm run test, and then maybe we can pass in that variable to the test, which basically now we're sort of starting to do what is a little bit like an end-to-end integration test, where we've got a local contract that we're running a test. Maybe we're deploying the contract to the test net. Then we're going to upload the contract to a testnet contract, right? Maybe it's not even our own contract. Maybe it's like OpenSea's testnet contract. And now we can start pulling data from the contract, making sure that that the correct data is pulled out of that live testnet contract, for example. Feed that back into our test and say, great, the test has run successfully, and we've perform the integration with the live marketplace on the testnet, for example. So now we've basically built like an end-to-end integration testing flow, where we can have our smart contracts interact with other people's smart contracts, for example, in a test environment, which is pretty awesome. The other thing we can do as well is we don't even have to leave our editor anymore. We can quickly open up a term in our editor, and then we can also, just do stuff like that. We don't have to close our editor. We don't have to go to a web browser. It reduces down like, 5 to 10 interactions to do this kind of task with Etherscan down to a single interaction with your shell. And you don't even have to leave your editor, which is super awesome. The other potential benefit that this might have is basically with Etherscan in the past, or still now, you'd have to verify a contract. So you'd have to go and upload your source code to Etherscan. Maybe you've just uploaded a contract to your testnet. So you'd have to upload that source code to then go and read and write from the contract. If you are maybe just doing one-off, little tests of the contract, maybe you're in like a rapid development flow, it's probably not a good idea to start writing single use case unit tests and putting them in your code base, because then you end up with like unit test bloat. You end up with a bunch of unit tests that you don't want there, or you don't need there, or you're keeping them around because they give you a green tick and it makes you feel good, or something like that. So this is really good for those one-off interactions, just to quickly do that kind of stuff too. The other use case for it as well is when you deploy a smart contract to, say, your local blockchain like your Hardhat or your Ganache or your Foundry, when you deploy those through, say, just through your CLI, so maybe you go, you've got your deploy script, right? So we've got our deploy script here, and our deploy script is going to deploy it to our local Hardhat testnet, for example. Now we've got this contract in the testnet, but how do we interact with it, right? Well, now we can go npx notar CLI, and then we can actually specify the network as our local testnet. And because we have the ABI, we can actually start querying stuff on our local testnet. Now, if you've used Remix, you might say, well, you can do that with Remix. When you upload a contract with Remix, it gives you a handy little GUI there for you to go and interact with the contract. You can go and mint a token, for example, you just created at 721. Or you could do many things within Remix within that GUI. So this does the job of Remix, this does the job of Etherscan, this does the job potentially of more complex testing frameworks like with end-to-end integration testing. There's a lot of power in the simplicity of this tool, and it's built on quite a solid foundation as well. So let's go and have a look at it on GitHub. So this is Notar CLI. You can find it on GitHub, and as I said, you can install it instantly with npx Notar CLI. You can also install it globally on your shell as well, but I generally prefer to just use npx these days to get rid of that bloat on my local machine. So Notar CLI is built on another couple of projects that I think are awesome. Of course, Ethers is a great project, but ABI it only has a few stars, but I have a lot of confidence in this when I saw that they are using NX. Now, NX does what is called code scaffolding. You just say, NX, create me a library, and it's just going to immediately create the library with all the boilerplate and the correct structure in place. So this means that these developers, or this developer here, will be able to take pull requests to add in new libraries more efficiently to expand out the libraries that ABI supports. Now, ABI basically just gives you the ABIs and the TypeScript types for popular smart contracts, and the contracts they currently support are Soulmate and OpenZeppelin. So that means that Notar CLI will be able to quickly query any contract that is using an OpenZeppelin interface or a Soulmate interface. That's your OpenZeppelin ERC721s, 1155s, governor contracts, a whole bunch of contracts that OpenZeppelin supports. So this is a really cool tool because, as I said, you can very quickly get information from a live network, from a test network, from a local network on your CLI without having to leave your editor. You can add this into bash scripts to do more complex programmable kind of things like, as I said, end-to-end integration testing. So this is a really great tool, I think. I think this is going to save a lot of time for Ethereum developers in their workflow, and it seems to be built on some very solid foundations. As I said, using ABI Make, I think, was a great idea. In terms of the fact that this package can expand out in the future and add many more ABIs as it gets more popular. So I hope you found this interesting. Potentially you learned something too. Maybe you think Notar is an awesome tool like me, and you want to go and use it now. I hope you do enjoy using it, and just keep on keeping on. Obviously, I feel like using the CLI is way more efficient than doing things in a web browser, but don't knock the web browser either. Etherscan and Remix are fantastic tools, so I'm definitely not saying that they don't have a place, but Notar CLI really has a place in developer workflows where you just really want quick information, you want programmability, you want flexibility, and you want to integrate stuff into your tests, for example, a whole bunch of cool potential use cases and things that you can do with Notar, as well as saving you a bunch of time and hassle. So that's it. That's Notar CLI. Hope you found this useful.